wraps the world in winter. She cradles the weary in her wrinkled hands. She unspools the skein of night. Older than time and wiser, the kayaki calls all to rest. Close your eyes and slumber. Let pass what must pass into darkness. Let pass what must pass away, away. Let pass what must pass away. My students know this dreaded moment is coming. Can you guys help me with this? Let pass what must pass away, away. Let pass what must pass away. We'll do it a few times so we all get it. Let pass what must pass away, away. Let pass what must pass away. Keep going, guys. The kayaki calls, the kayaki calls, the kayaki calls all to rest. Keep going. The kayaki calls, the kayaki calls, the kayaki calls all to rest. So the kayaki in Gaelic cosmology, which the Gaelics, the Gaels, are the people of Scotland and Ireland, is the hag. In English we would call her the hag. The hag is old, the hag is wrinkled, the hag is powerful. The hag formed the earth, and the hag calls those who are ready to move on to rest. Many of you know that I have recently been honored to spend time with ancestors as they've passed on to the next world. My mother passed away on March 7th, 2022, so 13 months and 1 week ago. And Tonton, Catelus Laguerre, who was a Haitian master drummer, passed away on Saturday at 5:30 in the morning. And I had the honor to be with both of them during the process that doctors call active dying. So if you don't know, you'll probably learn that when we leave life, we spend about 3 days letting everything go, when all of our organs go to sleep. And that's why I wrote this song of the kayaki calling people to rest at that time, that old hag with her wisdom. So today, I'm actually speaking here for the Institute of Immigration Studies, and last week we had a wonderful lecture by Dr. Sabina de Rosier, who talked about acculturation. She talked about how people come to South Florida and they bring with them their heritage culture, and then they encounter the host culture. And her work as a psychologist looks at what happens when people go through that process. So as a performance studies scholar, the dreaded timing out. As a performance studies scholar, I have long been interested in another process related. In fact, I didn't know until today when I looked it up again that Fernando Ortiz, who is a Cuban anthropologist in the early 20th century, made up this term transculturation in opposition to acculturation, because he says that at least in Cuba, and I would argue in South Florida, the host culture is so dynamic. We have so many people coming from so many places that we change the culture as it changes us. Mm-hmm. And so transculturation is a term that he came up with to try to understand how this wonderful music in Cuba was created from the heritage of people from across West and Central Africa, from the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and from all the different cultures in Europe. So I just took a tiny snippet from what he does in his definition, which is that there's extremely complex transmutations of culture in transculturation. So you bring cultures together and you create a new culture that's constantly changing. So this is my mom in happier times. She was born in Leamington, Ontario, Canada. Dr. Jean Fraser just wanted to give you a picture of her before she was passing. And this is Tonton, Catelus Laguerre. He was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti in 1940. And of course, people aren't born old. This is my mom on the beach. She said a strange man asked her and her friend if he could take pictures, and he gave them copies, so I didn't ask any more questions about that. I think, I'm not sure, I'm gonna make a summer research tour, trip to the archives, the Schomburg Archives in New York at the New York Public Library, where Lavinia Williams has an archive. She founded the folklore company of Haiti. And Tonton was the youngest member. He was 12 years old because he was already such a good drummer and dancer. They invited him to be in this company from age 12. I think this is him. But I'm gonna have to really go up to the archives and explore. But I think it kind of looks like him. And he's one of the 3 drummers, so I'm gonna say for today, that's him. And then I just wanna show you this slide. So in my house, which we'll see in a second, there were 6 people. Because now we're 4. But when all 6 of us were there, we had this Miami house mix where we had Tonton from Haiti. This is Yesenia. She's my son's girlfriend. She's lived with us since she was 17. Now she's 30. And her parents are from Colombia and Honduras. And there's my mom from Canada. Her mom, as you'll see, was from Scotland, and her mom was from Ireland. And then I was born in the United States. My son's father was from Nicaragua, and my current husband, that's also glamorous, is from Mexico. There's St. Patrick. You may have heard of him. He's the patron saint of Ireland. He wasn't from Ireland. He was an immigrant. But he actually was enslaved. At that time, he was a person from maybe Wales, I think. He was enslaved. He was brought to Armagh. And he was converted, and he really felt the passion of Catholicism. So he escaped, he went back, and then he came back when he was free, and he founded his first church in Armagh. My grandma, Betty, was born on March 18th, which is the day after St. Patrick's Day, so she always said she was born on St. Patrick's Day. And then just to seal the deal, she married my grandpa on St. Patrick's Day. So St. Patrick's Day was a big deal in our house. But my great-grandma back in Armagh, they were very, very poor, and like many Irish at the time, they immigrated. Many immigrated to the United States, but they immigrated to Scotland. And like often happens with immigrants, they were not welcome. They were Catholic, and a lot of people around them were Protestant. They were seen as vermin, and they worked in the mines. Not my grandma, but her dad worked in the mines. And even then, they weren't making enough money. So she went, as many Scots did, to Canada. And that's how my mom ended up being born in Leamington. There she is again on the beach of beautiful Lake Erie. And she didn't care for that little town she was born in. And she fell in love with a man, but he owned a china shop downtown. She knew he was never gonna leave, so she broke up with him. My dad was from the big city of Detroit, so she married him. He had a summer house. His family had a summer house in her little town. She got out. And she only gave us 2 songs. So we're gonna get to Tonton in a minute. He gave me so many songs, but my mom only sang 2 songs supposedly from her heritage. One of them, and she didn't even know the whole song, she only knew 1 verse of each. So one of them, I'll have her sing. It's called The Irishman's Shanty. These are a couple of her grandchildren. So my mom had 6 kids, 15 grandkids, 24 and counting great-grandchildren. And these are 2, this is Ellie and Keith. Happy St. Patrick's Day! So she has Alzheimer's here already. You're gonna see even that 1 verse is a little much for her. And I'll just sing it since it's zeroing. Happiest ever. So, yeah, the idea is you sing it as fast as you can. And that was the only thing she knew. So that's what we thought was an Irish song, but it's about as Irish as this offensive song is American. And so this is not considered to be Irish traditional music. It's considered to be a very fun word, which is paddywhackery. So Paddy was a derogatory term for the Irish. Many Irish were named Patrick, and so if people didn't like the Irish, they would say, ugh, that Paddy. And then you might know the word paddy wagon, right? That the police come sometimes and pick people up. I got in big trouble. I used the word paddy wagon. I got arrested on the job as a journalist. I wrote about it. I said I got put in the paddy wagon. I got all these angry letters from my fellow Irish Americans, and I'm like, I am proud that our Irish heritage is in the English language. Paddy wagon. So, it turns out there used to be a practice, much like minstrelsy, which you might know about, where people made fun of African Americans, white people made fun of African Americans by putting on blackface and singing crazy songs that supposedly were songs that were from black people. They also would pretend to be Irish people. They would be Patty or Betty or Bridget, and my grandma's name was Betty. And this was one of those songs, but we grew up singing it. Kind of crazy. And I found that it wasn't from Ireland at all, it was from Michigan. So anyway, despite that, we adopted it. And I did a project.
I was not for you.
This is my great niece, Holland. She's actually a national competitive dancer, not in Irish dancing, but she agreed to do this for us. I did a project where I started to study the heritage, Irish and Scottish, because until 2020, I didn't know a single Irish song or Scottish song except for these two verses. This is my great niece, Maya. This is my brother Bill and all of his progeny. So everyone's indulging me and they're singing the song for my mom. And we made videos for her. These little guys are just amazing. I don't think they're even old enough to read. And they memorized one of the hardest verses. My mom taught me 2 verses of dubious songs, and Tonton taught me many, many, many songs, how to drum, how to dance. Again, that's him. So I'm gonna leave you guys, this is available online so I can send links to it with all the stuff, but since we're almost out of time, this is Catelus. She was with Tonton also, very near the end, a great friend of his, and she is a singer. So I put 2 songs together in this project, right? You saw the Irishman's Bohio, where we did Cuba plus Ireland. This is a song by Robert Burns, who is known as the Bard of Scotland, and he did a series of laments, songs where people are being sad about something. And one of his laments is the Slave's Lament, and it's kind of remarkable for the time, for a white man who actually had been hired to be the bookkeeper on a plantation in Jamaica. Lucky for him, his poetry blew up right before he went, so he never had to take that job. And he wrote a poem imagining how somebody in Senegal might feel if they were abducted and enslaved. So it's a lament about that, from that person's point of view as he imagines it. And then Tonton and Catelus, when I started talking about how should we put something together for this song, they said, oh, there's a song that says, if you put Barry student. I don't know how. Let me see. Over here.
shore.